Hello, everyone. My name is John Allen, and I'm a pleasure to be involved with a program called 35 Days to Good Health with the original founder and writer by the name of Mr. Bernard Beale. I think you'll find his book, How to Survive the Crisis, to be a fascinating read, and I encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity to read it. But today I want to interview Mr. Beale with a few questions about specifics of his book. Bernard, why don't you give us, if you will, an initial introduction into why you've written this book?
Well, that's a good start because I've just had the time to think about all of these confluence of events that are taking place because of COVID and the need for health information. And I think people need to hear today what would help them to be able to survive these crises that are occurring all around us. And now we have many crises. We have hurricanes, we have the pandemic, we have the politics. Everything seems to be crushing down on us. And I think people need to understand how to survive.
That's good. I like that. Let's get right into it. Chapter 1, excuse me. Chapter 1 identifies the monumental goals that we often need to address, but you suggest that we do it in a good and concise way. Expand on that, if you would.
I started out and I started thinking about how everyone has to start, and starting to improve your health, you've got to start. And that's hard for a lot of people. But what is even most difficult is getting to the end and finishing. And so inside the book, I've shared stories of, pandemics and things of just jaw-dropping crises and such, but people survive these. And I look at the health laws that we've been able to develop over years as secret clues to help people to be able to survive the various crises. So starting out with a good goal is very, very important. And then from there, we continue to step it up and give more, up to 10 total goals and things, how you do these things in 10 precepts, 10 commandments of health is what we call it. And we share that throughout the book as well.
Sure. One of the chapters, and I really like this quotation, it says, prevention is not only better than the cure, it is the cure. Where did you come up with that one?
Well, the entire book, starting from the front of the book, we talk about the bubonic plague, which is the most, one of the most biggest pandemics that was full of terror and just suffering. And in that, as you look at the front of the book, we chose the figures that were real, these individuals that were real back then. They had the doctors who were covered with the mask, and they had the funny beak, and they had gloves, and they had that's it. They had all of these things. These were real doctors that were going about, and they had a stick in their hand, and that stick was actually there to push people away who were trying to get to the doctor to get relief from their suffering through their tinctures or whatever they had to offer them. But their whole concept was taking it to a whole nother level. And I see this relevance in, how our doctors are having to address with masks and all of these other things. And in the beak for the doctors of that day, they put flowers in there and they had fragrance because they thought that was going to block it from getting into their system. This was the reality of what was taking place back in those days. So when I look at everything today, I kind of equate it to the history of what has taken place in the past. And then I tried to weave in the concepts and the ideas that we have to deal with and the principles. And then I break it real about how do we improve our health? How do we improve our immune system? You know, these are things that are very, very real.
That's very true, especially like you say in today's time. Now, something I found very interesting that I didn't know anything about was the women of the Amazon. Expand that a little bit.
Yes. Well, you know, there are two stories that I like more than anything, and that's the one about the bubonic plague, which we talk about in the early chapter. And we talk about how people suffered and they died these terrible deaths. I mean, these boils and all the oozing and all this crazy stuff. And this happened in the 1300s. But then by the time you got to the 1500s, the explorers and the conquistadors, they come across the waters and they come to America. And it started in Peru, where Pizarro and his brother, they went through this conquering in Peru, which, by the way, is a whole nother set of stories and things that can be covered at another setting. But anyway, after they finished with the conquest in Peru, Pizarro's brother, Gonzalo, transferred down farther into what we now call the Amazon. And a gentleman by the name of Francisco Orellana followed him there, and they were going to go down the Amazon and they were searching for the city of gold. They had heard this from the natives that there was a vast city of gold. And then there was a place where supposedly there was all of this amazing spices that were there. And so these gentlemen, these fellows were going to go down the river and they were going to conquer the territories. And so as they started out, Oriana ended up in the boat that was going down the big river. And as he's going down the big river, these natives started coming out in groves and they started shooting their arrows, and they began to realize, you know, this isn't going to be easy. So as they did that, the Oriana and all of these 40 to 60 men, they began to get their crossbows out and they began to shoot indiscriminately. And they also had their muskets, and they began to wipe out a lot of people. Well, while this was going on, they saw these women warriors coming out of the woods. And these women warriors, they discovered that they were most amazing, fierce warriors. Well, that story caused them to look really, really seriously and talk to the natives. And they discovered that these women warriors had amazing cities that were established all over the Amazon. And they were taking control of many of the villages. And the women would actually raid the villages, and they would take men from the villages. And then when they got done, they'd return them because their villages were all women. So it was quite an amazing story.
Wow.
And by the way, the Amazon was named by Oriana because essentially he saw those women warriors as the Greek women gods, and in the Greek mythology, the Amazonian women, and he called them the Amazon, and that's how the river got its name.
Almost a tribute to the women.
Indeed.
Yeah. I was fascinated that you speak in chapter 4 by quoting the Bible, Isaiah 51:6 in the New King James Version. It says, "Lift up your eyes to the heavens and look on the earth beneath, for the heavens will vanish away like smoke. The earth will grow old like a garment, and those who dwell in it will die in like manner. But my salvation will be forever, and my righteousness will not be abolished." That speaks right to today's crisis. Man, you hit it.
Well, I have to say that this entire book it's spiritual. It's not just about health. It's about health, it's about history, but it's also spiritual. And what I've discovered over the time that we've been involved with helping people with their health, we've discovered, and I'm by no means an expert. I just read a lot and I learn and I accept that history has a lot of good knowledge for us. And so in our working with people, we've come to understand that true health is a combination of physical health, it's a combination of eating properly, it's a combination of going out and getting sunshine and exercise, and it also has a spiritual component. People and statistics tell us, and lots of studies, that people who have a relationship with their God. Now, I have a certain religious orientation, but I'm not trying to force my orientation on other people. But what the statistics tell us is that people who believe and have a sense of a knowledge of a higher being, that if they constantly are calling on that higher being, their chances of coming off the hospital bed or coming away from the ventilator that's stuck down the throat is much greater when they believe. So there's a spiritual component to life, and there also is a bit of mystery. And we kind of touch on all three of those aspects in this book.
Yeah, that's right. You know, it's interesting to me. We talk about the old normal. I'm not sure we know what normal is anymore, with all the fires and 9/11 and the disasters and the COVID and this and that and the other. To me, it says we're more and more rapidly coming to a place where it's going to be more and more difficult to cope.
Yeah, well, I actually, in the book, I talk about end time events because I'm kind of like that. So I'm sharing, you know, the things that I'm sharing, I think they're kind of old schoolish, you know. But if people can talk about weird and crazy stuff today that they do on this internet and everything, I mean, it's crazy that I think I can share some of these values. And I think that that the world is kind of entering into this period of time, which is kind of like scary. It's like the end time type times. Now, I'm not one to say that the next year or tomorrow the Lord is going to come or anything like that. I don't even know how long this world will last, but I can tell you with what things are going on right now, man's going to blow it up all on his own.
That's
That's what it seems like to be getting to me to be.
right. That's for sure. It's an interesting time that we live in.
Indeed.
Rage is everywhere. You know, we have
Yeah,
scoffers.
and we talk about the scoffers. We
Yep.
make a big thing about the scoffers. We have conspiracy theorists. We have scoffers. These guys get on the tubes and they get on the internet and all they do is bloviate and talk all day and they get people all stoked up and they cause problems. They cause cynicism and they cause all these things. Even when there isn't a problem, they're creating a problem. And the reality is that as we're in these conflicting times, the difficulty gets to be, who are you going to listen to? Are you going to listen to these kind of people, which seem to be getting people stoked up for civil wars and conflicts? And I say in this book that the true outlet is faith and hope, and having hope and believing that there's a better day coming is something we really should be embracing, as opposed to a lot of this nonsense stuff that we're hearing today.
That's right. That's right. I remember when my dad was still alive, he used to say, the world is getting so bad, I'm becoming more and more of a pessimist. and we have to really work and strive to not be that way.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And I, as I got toward the end, yes, we went down a little bit and discouraged because we looked at all things that were taking place, and it got a little gloomy, as you can say. But then at the end, we turn upward and say, but there are better things to come. And
That's
it's
right.
something to be encouraged about. And what you can do with your health is you can change your life and you can be better off tomorrow than you are today. And that's a lot of hope.
That's right. That's right. You have a quote of Rick Warren's that says, there are three things you can do with your life. You can waste it, you can spend it, or you can invest it. The best use of your life is to invest it in something that will last longer than your time on earth. That's pretty powerful.
You know, I love that quote, and I don't agree with everything that I have in the way of the people that give these profound statements, like maybe Howard Zinn. Maybe I can argue with Howard on a lot of things, but I tell you what, Howard had a beautiful quote that we nestled into the book, and so did Rick, and so did Nelson Mandela. I mean, these people, they have a lot of good things to say. And so at the end or somewhere in every chapter, we give beautiful quotes. And then we also end every chapter giving a little recipe, a healthy
Yep. Yep.
and can get better. You know, eating is big as a part of your health. And we put all of these things together in our little book.
Yeah, I like the way you end each chapter with a recipe. I can't wait for my wife to cook them. Let me speak briefly and show on the book. You probably can't read it, but 2 pages. Your appendix, which is the 10 good health commandments. And if you don't mind, I'll just read them.
Please.
And I like the way that they don't say thou shalt not. They say thou shalt. They're positive. First one says, thou shalt make yourself a health goal and determine with all your heart to achieve it. That's great. Number 2, thou shalt participate in outdoor activity and get beneficial sunlight 30 minutes every day. That's important. Number 3, thou shalt eat healthy and eat clean. You know, with all the pesticides and the chemicals in our food nowadays, eating clean is very, very important and hard to do. Number 4, remember to take 1 day off a week and have timely rest each day. We are so bombarded with do this, do this, do this, do this throughout the day and into the night that we need that at least 1 day a week to stop and rest and recuperate. Number 5, thou shalt engage in walking, jogging, gardening, and or exercise a minimum of 1, 2, 3 times a week. That's every other day. We need that. Number 6, thou shalt drink a minimum of 3 to 4 glasses, 16 ounces of water every day. That's the emphasis word there is minimum of 3 to 4 glasses a day. Number 7, thou shalt have hope and believe. And again, like you've mentioned, in today's crisis world, coming at us from all angles, we need that hope and that belief. Number 8, thou shalt have good hygiene and keep a clean, sweet house. I like the way you put that, a clean and sweet house. If the house is bitter, if the relationship is bitter, it's going to affect you personally. Number 9, thou shalt keep a clear conscience and a good mental health. Like marriage counselors say, never go to bed with an argument not being resolved. It is good to have good mental health and a clear conscience. And number 10, thou shalt breathe fresh air every day. That too is getting harder and harder to do.
You know, and we gathered these from historical studies of people who over the years, all the way back to the Greeks, we were able to gather these precepts in the Old Testament and the Bible and different historical places. These are simple things that our complex society has gotten away from, and we're just calling people back to it again. And what we want to do is we want to share good health because it is for everyone, no matter what creed, color, no matter how much money you have. Good health is available to all of us. It is a blessing. And that is why we've written this book, to spur people's desire to improve their health and live a good, healthy life for many, many years to come.
Good. I want to encourage people that are watching us to get your book. If no other reason, get it for the recipes, but get the book and ponder the valuable information that you put in that book to help us all deal with the current crisis and potential future crises, because I think, unfortunately, the world is in a place that they're going to continue, and they're going to come more and more frequently. Thank you, Bernard, very much for your comments today, for your writing of the book. You thrill my heart with your mission and your dedication to this whole concept of health. And I wish you the best of day and evening. And I'm waiting for the next book.
Thank you, John. This has been fun. We'll do it again. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.